Tuesday, September 8th, Town Council Committee of the Whole regular meeting. All councilors are present. Calendar and communications. Councilor Baumgartner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Over the weekend, I attended a peaceful protest. It was, I think, the second protest that left from the Quantic Plains Park, organized by the Groton Youth Collective. I attended along with Councilor Bordelon, and I know Councilor Burt attended the speaking portion as well, where youth were speaking about their summers and, you know, the injustices they've seen and the changes they'd like to make. And there's a peaceful march and very passionate, but certainly peaceful as well. And with that, I have nothing further, but just thank you again to the Groton Youth Collective for organizing it.
Thank you. Councilor Parker.
Yes, I attended the liaison meeting with the Board of Ed, City Council, RTM, and Town Council on Wednesday. And that's all I have to report.
Thank you. Councilor Franco.
Thank you. I have nothing to report.
Councilor Heed.
Nothing to report, thank you.
Councilor Aubrey.
I have no meetings. I will tell you the real estate business is alive and well. That's it. I have no time.
Oh, sorry. Councilor Bordelon.
Thank you. Like Councilor Baumgartner, I also attended a peaceful protest on this weekend, and I have nothing else to report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Melendez.
Nothing to report.
Councilor Zepari.
No report.
Thank you. I attended the RTM, Board of Ed, Town Council, City meeting along with Councilor Parker. There was some good news that Dr. Grenier reported out, that it looks like with some grants that are going to be coming through, that at this point, the operational budget should be okay. They are using some money to buy computers to move more towards the one-on-one aspect, 25% distance learning. There are 17 teachers that require accommodations. There's going to be another tour of the middle school scheduled. So if you guys are interested, reach out to Dr. Grenier's office. There will be a beam signing ceremony similar to what we did for the middle school for Cutler. Sometime in September, I don't have a date yet. The gym floor is being redone as it was warped. And I'm going to yield to Councilor Parker because I had to leave to go to a superintendent search focus group. And Councilor Parker remained for the rest of the meeting. Councilor Parker, is there anything else that was reported after I left the meeting?
They're still in the hiring process. He did say they added an additional janitor, and what was the other thing? We did inform them about the approval of the $12,500 that was going to the RTM. So that was all.
Thank you very much for finishing out that meeting. Okay, Mr. Burke, did you have anything to communicate?
I don't have anything tonight.
I'm sorry. So one other thing, he did mention that the middle school wasn't starting to be able to attend into the building until next week.
Very good. Thank you. Okay.
May I?
Yes.
I'm probably not the right place, but I'll do it anyways. I just want to compliment John and the Public Works Department. You know, they took on the responsibility of putting out the bids for the pier at the Nautilus for the fit the boats, and did an excellent job of pulling that all together. And I'm sure there's a lot of people who are very appreciative of his work and Public Works work. Thank you, John.
Okay. So we are on to item 4. Counselor Baumgartner, would you move approval of the minutes, please? This is on page 3 in your packet.
I'll make a motion to approve the committee of the whole meeting minutes of August 25th, 2020. So moved.
Second, Parker.
Moved by Baumgartner and seconded by Parker. I just have one minor correction on page 12. Scrolling. At the top of the page, the second full paragraph where it says Mayor Granatoski took a vote from the council on their first and second priorities. I'd like that clarified that there was no vote taken. It was simply a poll. Okay, we just polled everybody for priorities. We did no voting on that item. Anyone else have comments on the minutes? Okay, Councilor Bordelon.
Yes. Let me see if I can find my page. I apologize. The part where I was questioning the poor and unable to pay section. Hold on. I guess it's when I read it, it was unclear. I just wanted to double confirm. Maybe it's not a change to the minutes. The way that it's written, it states. Let me just try to find it really quick. Sorry, I thought I had it marked. That the name of it does come from the state. That's what I had got from that meeting. But the way in which we decide to handle it can be revised by the town. Because on one section of it, it says, no, that comes from the state. And then Cindy speaks and states, actually, it can be. And then I asked, do we need another referral? And then John says, no, we do not. It can, go under this referral. That's already, that Councilor Zapiri had sent. So is that the way that we're going to handle this, or do I need to send a referral? Because I'm a little unclear from the minutes, because the conversation goes back and forth.
It would be part of the original referral. I sent some materials to everyone late in the day today of our different brochures and things, and the poor and unable was one of them. It's all part of the kind of same package of different options.
Right. I guess my question, though, was not saying it was handled poorly the first time. No criticism to how it was handled, but we were talking about how we didn't have a finance committee anymore, and
yeah, it can be changed.
And so maybe the process can be changed. So I know we're not sure in what order we're taking up these items, and they're not currently set up. But do we have to wait for that to come back up to just start to change the language, or does it have to be added on? I guess, and because I just want to clarify that we can change the language is all.
Is this in the minutes? Is this something in the minutes you're referring to?
Yeah, I'm trying to find my spot. 1 second. That's what I was trying to. My paper's flipped over.
I believe it might be page 10. Is that the page you were referring to?
Yeah.
And so
it's just at the start of the conversation, it states, no, we can't change it. This is the way the state goes. And then Cindy later clarifies on down that actually we can make changes to how we go about reviewing the process. And that was my question, because I'm looking at the minutes and it read 2 ways. So I just wanted to clarify it.
It can be changed. And then it's up to the council how they want to proceed.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm not clear. So we need to, what is it that you would like changed in the minutes, Councilor Bordelon?
I guess stating more clearly that we can actually change the process of not the wording, because I guess we can't per the state, but that we can actually make changes to the process and how we interview and review them, the recipients or possible recipients of the poor and unable to pay guidelines.
So I'm not finding the language where the finance director stated what you're talking about. So if you have it, that would be helpful, please. That way, when they are redoing the minutes, they can zoom right in on the correct
Sure. Let me see.
for you.
I had it marked. I apologize. I can submit it through email, or is it too late once it's voted, or I can just send a follow-up?
Well, I don't think we want to vote until we know exactly what the change will be. So,
Yeah, hold on one second.
Okay.
Uh,
want me to take Council's
okay, page 11,
page 11? Okay.
paragraph 4. It looks like Finance Director Landry provided the background information, the poor and unable to pay program process in the town. She shared that in the 2001 adopted agreement called for the Town Council Finance Committee to meet with the applicant. And then as the Town Council no longer has a finance committee, the committee is now the committee of the whole. She stated that the town, tried to maintain privacy and all there. So, and then Borderline requested steps be taken to create a referral. So I just somewhere in one of these paragraphs, just adding that, just clearer that we can change, not the name, but we can go to the council can make changes to the process and work on that language.
Mr.
I'm
Burt,
not even finding what you're referring to. You said page 11?
she said page 11, and she said about the 4th paragraph down where it begins, the 3rd full paragraph, Finance Director Cindy Landry. That paragraph is what Councilor Bordelon just read to us as what we're following. What I'm not clear of is what you would like the change to be, and I think that's the issue.
I guess it's just more clear if you read from the beginning, the dialogue changes, right? If you start from the beginning of the minutes, when I first ask about it and then they speak, it kind of says, no, you can't. And then by the end, it's kind of saying that you possibly can, but it's not really clear is all. That's all I'm asking.
I was muted, sorry.
That's okay.
Would it be possible for Ms. Hilton to go in and review the language from the video and add some detail there about what Councilor Bordelon is speaking?
Yes.
Okay. Is that acceptable, Councilor Bordelon?
That's fine. And John just restated that it can be changed. So I just wanted to make sure that it actually, in fact, can. And and what is stated here is kind of unclear. So thank you.
Is the rest of the council comfortable with voting the minutes and then having Ms. Hilton provide some more detail? I see Councilor Zepari has his hand up, but is it in reference to this, Councilor Zepari?
Yes, I have. It's in reference to the minutes, not necessarily the thing that, Councilor Bordelon has been talking.
So can you, 1 second, please, Councilor Zepari? I just want to clear up Councilor Bordelon's issue first. So is the council comfortable with allowing Ms. Hilton to go in and add more detail to that section of the minutes? Is there any objection to that? Okay, I see no objection. Councilor Zepari, go ahead, please.
By the way, my hand was up on the computer.
I saw it.
Oh, you did see it.
I saw
Okay,
it.
so long as it's not being, so long as it's not somehow a technical glitch.
No, I saw it.
Going back to the very paragraph that you wanted to correct, Madam Mayor, the paragraph on page 12 that says Mayor Granatowski took a vote, actually obtained a consensus, for their first and second priorities. It wasn't for the first and second priorities, it was to rank the priority. And the way this paragraph reads is the concern of the council for having sewers and municipal water throughout the town that was expressed is now dropped off of our scope for consideration. I don't think that was the intent. The intent was to prioritize bridges and tax abatements as numbers 1 and 2, and that left sewers and water supply as number 3. But it didn't mean that it's eliminated from our consideration altogether. I think those are things we have to consider and plan in long-range planning to get to accomplish. And I'd like to not see them fall off the end of the list. Having a name that begins with Z, I'm accustomed to falling off the bottom of the page, but I'd like to catch this one if we can.
Okay, I think it was a product of the way I stated the question that I asked, but so would you like to see that changed from first and second priority to, we took a consensus as to the 3 priorities and add the sewers in there?
Yes.
Okay, very good. All right, so we have 3, Councilor Franco.
I just want to make a comment that although we would like to change the way it should have been said, it was actually said that way. So I think that's how it should remain. And if there is a change, it could be brought up at a later date, because it's supposed to be minutes of what actually happened, not what we think should have happened, at least from my perspective.
So perhaps, so noted. So perhaps it could be stated that of the 3 referrals, and at that point, we could list the 3 and then say these were the top 2 of those 3. We'll let Ms. Hilton hash out the details. Mr. Burt.
And I was going to say, it's going to continue, the sewer and water will continue to be on the outstanding items list.
Good, thank you.
All right, seeing no further discussion, we will vote on 2025-87, August 25th minutes. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? So moved unanimously. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Can I just ask, are we passing the minutes with the correction for?
Yes.
I didn't hear the correction in the call. I'm sorry.
Yes.
I'm just going to abstain then.
Okay, so 8 in favor, 0 opposed, 1 abstention. Councilor Franco. Okay, very good. All right, so we are on to 2020-596-2020 State Homeland Security Grant Program. This is on page 14, and I believe this is Councilor Parker.
I make a motion to recommend a resolution approving Town Manager John Burt to execute all grant documents and accept grant funding for the 2020 State Homeland Security Grant Program. I so move.
Second.
Moved by Parker and seconded by Franco. And I believe this evening we have several people with us. Mr. Burt, who is with us this evening for this particular item?
Lieutenant B is with us.
Thank you. And let's see. This was on page 14, if you guys need to find it in your packet. And there's quite a bit of material that came along with this. So Lieutenant B, would you like to introduce this item to the council, please? Thank you for joining us tonight, sir. Lieutenant B is muted.
Sorry about that. My phone keeps cutting in and out on me.
Well, thank you for being with us tonight. Would you like to introduce the grant? Just tell us briefly about it, please.
Certainly. It's a grant through the Small Council of Governments Homeland Security Grant, where we get a portion of the grant. We don't know the dollar amount just yet. This is the beginning application phase of things. And I think last year it was about approximately $20,000, and it's used to supplement training in the police department.
Thank you. Are there questions for Lieutenant B? Councilor Aubrey.
I'm sorry, I had to step just aside for a moment. You may have already said it, but is there something in particular that this is going to be going for?
In the past, it's been used to supplement training for our police officers.
Okay, do you have to, when you go for it, do you state a particular thing that you're hoping to do, or?
It will be spelled out, yes. This is just the initial paperwork to get into the application for the grant.
I see.
We don't know how much money is available. Once we know that, then you can pinpoint what ways you could use it. Is that right, Lieutenant?
That is correct. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Councilor Bordelon.
Thank you. does the grant state that it has to be only for training, or what other types of things can the grant be used for?
It can be used, I'm assuming, for other things. In the past, we have typically used it just for training to help supplement training.
And just a reminder, as we know with the changes with the Police Accountability Act, there's going to be a lot more training requirements. So it's good to have as much money towards training as possible.
Gotcha. So,
Go ahead.
oh, no, sorry. I know, I was just going to ask, I just think it would be important to have some type of information come back to the council as to, what the plan is and what the money would be used for, since we don't have to necessarily use it for training, even though it was used in the past, but just to see and have that actually stated, because sometimes I think these things come before us, and it's great that John, executes it all, because, obviously that's what he does as a town manager, but it's nice to hear, an update on it and to where, what's going on with it. So if there's a way, and if there's a need elsewhere, I guess what I didn't see was exactly what other things this money could be used for.
At least once you know the amount and what it's going to be used for, will you let me know and I'll let the council know?
Yes, I will.
Is there any other documents possibly that state what else it can be used for that I might be missing?
That information that everyone should have in front of you is just the initial application portion of it. So it's the, like I said, it's the initial application plus what's the other form there that explains that Mr. Burt's the town manager. I apologize. It's slipping the top of my mind right now.
That's okay. Yeah, I guess I just was seeing like in a worse, well, we don't know what's going to come down from the state as far as funding for anything, right, despite the change in that bill that came through. And so it's always good in the back of my mind, looking at the whole town, wondering what other things this money could be used for is all. It's great that it's being used for training, but I was just curious if there's some other explanation documents I might be missing.
And there are reporting requirements for that grant as well. So it's not like it can be used frivolously. So everything has to be justified.
Right. I don't think that's my question, I guess, is what I know, like certain grants that the Board of Ed get, I guess, for example, can be used for, Department of Defense grants can be used for certain things only. So I was just wondering, is there any other umbrella this can be used for, just to kind of look at a wider scope?
I would actually have to look into it. This is the first year that I've taken this over since the captain has retired.
Gotcha.
So it's all new to me as well. And I apologize for not having the answer to your question.
No, that's okay. So is that something we can get, John, to know what else this grant can be used for?
Excuse me. Could I answer that?
Counselor Obrey, there are other people in line ahead of you. Did you want to chime in on this particular question?
Yeah, I wanted to tell you, it's in here, what you can do with it. On page, I think it's 8, in the middle of it, it says, determination of the town's good faith effort shall include, but shall not be limited to the following factors. The town's employment and subcontracting policies, patents and practices, affirmative advertising, recruiting, training, technical assistant activities, and such other reasonable activities or efforts as the commission may prescribe.
Right.
It pretty much covers it.
Right, and that's as the other open-ended part is what I was asking.
Yeah, I will get that to you, but I'd like to not see it delayed for that, because we are going to likely use it for training. And it is best left to the departments to decide what the need is.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I need more information on it just to be helpful. Thank you.
I'll get that to Mr. Burt.
I'll be quiet.
Thank you, Counselor Obrey, for offering that to us. Counselor Baumgartner.
And so I remember we approved similar, I think an identical grant last year and the year previously. It is a regional grant that I think the Southeastern Connecticut Council of Governments serves as the pass-through. Is that correct, Manager Burt?
Yep.
And just reading here, it says there are kind of several criteria that, so for the following 8 regional set-aside projects designed to benefit the state's municipalities. So they're regional collaboration, enhancing information, intelligence sharing, and cooperation with federal agencies, including DHS, addressing emergent threats, capital, regional, metropolitan, medical response system, medical preparation and response, citizen force program, enhancing cybersecurity, and enhancing protection of soft targets in crowded places. So where explicitly in the kind of set of criteria does it mention anything about training?
Again, it's been almost exclusively used for training in the past, so it's allowed. It's been approved year after year by the state. We just don't have the wording right.
And I ask that because, I obviously hear that, that these funds will be used for, training, which I think is great. But, I would be, far more hesitant of approving these funds if, for example, if they're used to address, say, emerging threats, which means they're going to, buy systems that will inevitably militarize the police departments. And that's something I'm not at all in favor of.
That's not the intent. It's the intent is likely for training, and we'll give you a word if it's going to be anything else.
All right. Thank you for that. And I appreciate you coming here, Lieutenant.
Thank you.
Councillor Aubrey, did you have something else you wanted to add?
No, I'm fine. Thank you.
Councillor Parker, did you have your hand up?
I did. As part of the Homeland Security Grant Program, each year they do this grant. They just want us to confirm that we're doing everything correctly. They do have to submit all paperwork, anything that has to do with training, if it's paid for, everything has to be submitted to the Homeland Security with documentation to them. So everything that they're going to do or have done in the past has to be documented. I mean, strongly documented, because if they don't have it, they won't get the money again the following year. So I'm all in favor for this because I know what the process is. So it does go a long way to help the police department.
Thank you. Are there any other first-time speakers? Councillor Franco.
Thank you. Lieutenant B, can you tell me what kind of training? Is this potentially like if an airplane goes down, or if there's some kind of active shooter, or is that the type of training? Like, how would we respond? And because that would be a homeland threat of some sort, or if there's like a chemical release somewhere, is that the type of training that you're doing, or is it a classroom training?
No, it's typically the hands-on training like you described for threats, and that's what it's been used for in the past.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Borderline, you have the floor.
Thank you. No, I think after looking at it, I guess I was just looking to see, like, yeah, I'm for accepting obviously any money we can get. I'm all in favor of. I guess I just want to have more stake in the process as the council to, when the monies come in, to help be a part of the process to look at the, how it's being distributed and to what programs. So I guess that my question to the town manager then is there a way in the future or current that this could be, and once again, I'm just asking, where it's set up, yes, you would do the process, but maybe something in here that states then once the money and the amount comes back, then we as a council collaboratively are part of it and hear from our police department to collectively state, what it is that they are in need of, obviously. And that way we are kind of in the know as to, which angle at the time they're going to use it for.
Yeah, as Lieutenant B said, until we know the amount, we can't determine exactly what it's going to be used for. He'll notify us though, but I really don't want to get into micromanaging the police department. They have to tell us what their needs are you know, council doesn't have to go beyond hearing what the grant is for. This is the appropriate process currently. And Lieutenant B will get us the information as soon as he has it.
Okay. I wasn't thinking of micromanaging. I know just the structure, just asking if there was a way to be.
Gravel, will you?
So, but thank you.
Yeah, they'll notify us.
Thank you.
Do any other first-time speakers wish to speak? If not, we'll go back to Councilor Aubrey. Councilor Aubrey, you have the floor.
But I just want to remind everybody that in the past, we have always allowed the police department to tell us afterwards what they were intending to use it for. And if we were going to do this, I think this would not be appropriate. John is our town manager. We don't want to bring in somebody every time they go for a grant. The library goes for grants. The Board of Education goes for grants. The Parks and Rec go for grants. And we don't ask them to come in and explain what they might be wanting to do it for. We usually get notification that they've received the grant and this is what they're doing, because they're the managers. If they come in and they say that this is what they're going to be doing and we think it's outrageous or not appropriate or something, then that would be appropriate to share what our feelings are. But I have faith in John being able to work with his department heads, and I have faith in the department heads that they know what they need and they're not going to abuse a grant because they wouldn't get it the next year. So I think the very best thing we can do is thank them for doing the grant. We'll be anxious to hear what they choose to work on with the money, and we can move forward without changing the entire process of the town, because we can't do it to one department and not do it to the rest. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to take this opportunity to speak. I'm just going to kind of restate. I was going to say what Councilor Aubrey said. I wanted to thank Lieutenant B and the department for pursuing this grant and for giving us, especially in what could potentially be a very difficult year, the opportunity to have some funding for some training or whatever the department heads deem fit to use the money for to improve the public safety in the town of Groton. So I appreciate that you are pursuing this grant. And I think it's been well spent in the past from what we've heard. And thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, Councilor Melendez, Heed and Zaperi have not spoken on this item. Would you like to speak before we go back to other councilors? Councilor Heed.
I'll go ahead and speak. I'm in support of going forward with the grant. Thank you.
I'll support it as well, Melendez.
Yeah. Councilor Zaperi, did you wish the floor at all, sir?
No, I'm happy we're coming to an end on this because it's such an obviously good thing. I think we should vote and approve it.
And Councilor Bordelon has her hand up. Councilor Bordelon.
Thank you. I'm just going to restate that I'm in full support of grants, and I think it's a great opportunity. I wasn't looking to change the process nor insult or incriminate anybody about their decisions or how they're spending money. But I just thought it was important to somehow, have a more, I understand that it was done other ways in the past. I was just simply asking in a manner of, when we start to look at our budget in the upcoming year and we might lose some education funds and what have you, there might be cuts down the road that we have to consider. So just seeing fully what this grant can offer, where it can go and where it will take us, where it's just a simple fiscally responsible question. And I'm not looking to change the process. I was just asking for some more clarification because it's at times nice to have different options on the table if needed. So thank you.
Everyone has had a chance to speak on this item. And I see no other hands, so I will call for a vote on 2020-596-2020 State Homeland Security Grant Program. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? So moved unanimously. Thank you again, Lieutenant B, for joining us this evening.
Thank you for having me. Have a good night.
You too, sir. Okay, we are on to 2024-311 Retiree Colas, and this is on page 26 in your packet. And there is no motion prepared because we have options. So we have with us, I'll give everybody a chance to get to page 26. And we have with us this evening, Mr. Bird, I'll let you do the introduction, sir.
Sure. We have both our town attorney, Eileen Duggan, as well as HR director / assistant town manager, Bob Zagami, with us tonight.
Thank you. And who would like the floor first?
I'll be happy to do a quick recap.
Thank you.
Sure. Bob, I and the town manager appeared before you back in June presenting retiree COLAs. Specifically, our retiree pension agreements have in them provisions, as well as non-union, have in them provisions that every 2 years, the council and the unions have the opportunity to review COLAs and decide whether or not the town will provide an additional COLA to existing retirees. When we brought this forward in June, it had come off the heels of the town providing a 2% COLA increase in 2018, which ran at a cost of about $688,000. The various unions presented a variety of proposed COLAs. We worked with them to get some figures costed out. We ultimately costed out an additional 2% COLA to be effective July 1, 2020, to provide us with some parameters or guidance. And that wound up, and we presented to you, the cost of about $78,000 a year, or over $800,000 in total. And that $78,000 would run approximately for 20 years. That's if we provided the retirees with an additional COLA of 2% effective July 1, 2020. At the time that we met, meaning the town manager, the HR director, and myself, our recommendation to the council was that we should not at this time pursue a COLA, due in part to the fact that that the town implemented a COLA a couple of years ago, to the fact that the town actually decreased its rate of return from 7.5% to 7.25%. Its assumption, which actually caused an increase in the town's required contribution of about $300,000 a year. And as well, given the uncertainties with COVID, we weren't sure where things were going. At that point in time, the council requested that we go back to our actuaries and get some additional figures for your consideration, somewhere between 0 and 2%. So that's what we went back and did. We spoke with Hooker and Holcomb. They worked with us to provide updated actuarial information. And I believe it's page 27 of your packet. You'll have a list of the costs of potential COLAs between 0.25%, 0.5%, 1%, and 2% for your consideration and review. And that's really where we are right now. It's really up to you to decide whether or not you would like to go ahead and authorize a COLA effective July 1, 2020. And I am looking at and suggesting July 1, 2020. At the last meeting, we had some discussion about potentially postponing a decision on a COLA or to have it effective July 1, 2021. My concern with that is all of our collectively bargained agreements provide for a review of this every 2 years. And we're going to be off cycle, I think, if we jump forward and suggest to implement something in 2021 without getting some approval or agreement from the union. So that's where we stand.
Thank you. So then it would be retroactive if we went ahead and did something to July 1st.
Correct.
Okay. Mr. Zagami, did you want to add anything at this point, sir?
Well, I would just like to say that I think we really should stay with being on cycle the every 2 years. I think that's important. Then we're not negotiating all separate contracts with everyone. That could happen actually. So I think we're at the point now where we just have to make a decision. It's 0 or it's up to 2%, and all the integers are there.
Okay. Mr. Burt, did you want to add anything else at this point in the discussion?
No, just agree with keeping it on cycle.
Okay. So then the three of you agree that it should be effective July 1st, 2020, so retroactive, And you hold with the original recommendation to not award a COLA this year, is that correct?
That is correct, with not knowing what the what's going to be happening through the next year with budgets.
All right, thank you. What I'd like to do now is open it up for council discussion, knowing that we have 3 experts with us this evening. So would anyone like to start? Councilor Zepari.
I'd like to make a motion for no COLA increase this year.
I'll second that.
Okay, hold on, please. So no COLA increase this year, moved by Zepari and seconded by Heed.
Correct.
Councilor Zepari, did you wish to speak on this?
Yes, we are in a time right now where the very uncertain financial times. We don't know what the financial status of the town will be at the end of the year. It's not a time to take on new expenses. In addition, there are many people in this town who are retired on fixed incomes and will see no COLAs, but they will have to pay additional taxes to cover the COLAs for the town employees who get this benefit. And everyone in the town is under duress. At least the people who are receiving retirement checks go on receiving the retirement checks and continue with their housing and with their sustenance. And there are so many in the community that have nothing. We are relying on the beneficence of so much of our community for donations to our own social services relief and to donations to places like the Gemma Moran Food Center in London, because there are too many people who just don't have enough money to get basic food. Our retirees are not in that condition. They want a better life, and they should have a better life. We all should have a better life. But at this time, under these circumstances, I think it's a bad time to expend additional funds on this cost. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. We have Councilor Franco and then Baumgartner.
I'd like to put a motion on the floor to increase the COLA at 0.5%.
Second.
Okay, hold on. So offer COLA of 0.5%. Moved by Franco. Who was the second, please?
Councilor Baumgartner.
Is that correct, Councilor Franco?
Yeah.
0.5%. And so that was moved by Franco and seconded by Baumgartner. Councilor Franco, would you like to speak to that first?
I would, thank you. Although we are in some tough times, prior to us giving an increase 2 years ago, many of the retirees had gone over 15 years without an increase. Many of these retirees may or may not be collecting on Social Security either. That's a long time to be sitting without an increase of living, without an increase for living. And also, I believe that as a council, just recently we had approved to apply for a grant to purchase land for our town, which would cost our town money in the same kind of climate and condition. And it is my opinion that we take care of the people that have worked for our town, who have given so many years to our town and expected probably to be taken care of in their retirement. And if I personally believe that if the council can approve spending to purchase land, I think our council should approve some spending to take care of our retirees who have given so much to our community. And with that being said, that's why I am requesting a modest increase of 0.5%, which also during COVID and everything that's been going on with it, the prices of everything have only been going up. So if I can't imagine what the cost of living has changed from probably 2 years ago to where we are now in the middle of COVID. So I would hope that our council can have a good debate on this and really think about how we take care of the people that have worked for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Franco. Oh, do we have the hands? Okay. So give me 1 second. Last I had 2 and now I have 5. So I don't know. I've got Councilor Baumgartner next. And then I also see Zakari, Heed, Melendez, and Bordelon. I'm going to go in the order for people that have already spoken. You're going to be put at the bottom of the queue so we can have first-time speakers first. So let's start with Baumgartner.
I'd just like to align myself with much of what Councilor Franco just stated. My question for the or whomever is willing to answer it. In years past, the town and the unions have jointly submitted proposals to the council to approve COLAs. Why this year in particular was it that the town opted not to jointly submit COLAs directly to the council with unions?
Actually, it's not always been the case that there's been a joint recommendation of the parties. The way the agreements are written, it states that the town and the union, each individually, are to meet to see if they can come to some agreement to then make a joint recommendation to the town. But in the absence of that, the parties have the right to submit information directly to the council. Given the sort of unusual circumstances that we found ourselves in, where we were actually unable to meet directly face to face with the unions at one point, and we're just going back and forth through email, I indicated to them, and it was accepted, that listen, if you would like for us to present more information to the council on your behalf, we'll do so. Let us know what that is. So that's how it came to be that we then presented what our position was, and you received information separately in the packet here that outlines the union's changed positions on the COLAs. But it's certainly not always been the case that the town and the union have agreed on a number and presented it to the council.
So what information are you presenting to the council are you presenting any of their proposals?
Sure, everything was in the packet already, including an outline of what their original proposals were and how those proposals changed after we indicated to them, but we're not going to be able to, in our minds, be able to go forward and say, yes, we want to pursue 2%. We can present information to the council, but we're not in a position, we felt, to join in what their proposals were. And in fact, their proposals weren't even 2%. Some were higher than that. One was 2.4%.
Not to interrupt, but you not to push back either, but
it's okay.
You had stated that those proposals were contained in the agenda packet, and so what I'm only seeing 4 proposals, so from 0.25%, 0.5%, 1%, and 2%. I'm not seeing anything above 2, 3, 4%.
Sure. So when we were here at the last occasion, oh, I'm sorry. Would you like me to explain that?
Well, just 1 second. I just want to refer them to the correct page. So if you start on page 28, that's
okay.
Attorney Duggan started presenting.
Okay, I oppose. So that was my source of confusion. Okay, so all right, and this is on okay, all right. Thank you. I'll read through this now. Thank you so much.
Sure.
I'm sorry, Attorney Duggan. Did you want to finish saying something? I just wanted him to have the pages.
No, I appreciate that. And I think if you flip to the third to the last page in that packet where there's a little yellow highlighting, it says union request for COLA effective July 1, 2020. That actually outlines what their initial request was, why they requested it, what their final request was after we had discussions, and the reason for their proposed change. And then in prior documentation submitted at this time in June, we also costed out the union's proposals as well. That's in a narrative document earlier on in that package.
And the chart with the yellow is on page 37 in the packet. Okay, Councilor Baumgartner, I'm going to go on and we can come back to you. Is that acceptable, sir?
Yes.
Okay, great. So
Thank you, Attorney Duggan.
Sure.
I had seen 5 hands and then it was down to 4. So I'm going to go to Heed and Bordelon, and then I thought there was another first-time speaker. So I'll give you a chance to raise your hand again if you want. So Councilor Heed and Bordelon.
Would you mind adding Leanne or Councilor Aubrey to the list? She's raising her hand.
I don't have a place to put my hand up on here.
I will add you to the list. I occasionally see you, and if I'm smiling, it's because Councilor Aubrey's sitting there going like this with her fingers, trying to get my attention. Okay, Councilor.
All right, thank you. So just a couple points in a question. 2 years ago when we approved an increase to the COLA, we understood that it had been 15 years before no previous council had increased that COLA, and the economy was good. We were doing well with our budget, and I think it was a good time to do it. Also, I was trying to look at what our average inflation rates are, and it looks like they appear to be between like 1.7 and 2.5% or thereabouts. This year, it's less than 1%. It's from what I've been able to find, I'm going to guess it's around 0.8%. So the 0.5% might make sense. My only concern would be, a lot of people aren't getting raises this year. I would be very hesitant to support an increase based on that. But I do have a question for, I don't know who it's for. The 0.5% COLA increase, it's a $19,575 increase to the town's annual cost for 20 years. And that's total is $210,500 over 10 years or over 20 years. Is that correct? Is that what I'm reading?
Right. So it's sort of like if you paid everything all at once, it would be a lot cheaper than if you paid it over time.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we have Councilor Bordelon, Aubrey, Melendez, and then we can go to second time.
Thank you. I think it is a tough year, and it is important to look at all aspects of our budget. And I think Councilor Franco nicely stated, we have supported other things in our town. So it's important to look now when it comes down to the people that have served our town, making sure that the retirees are taken care of. Also considering that, we just had a minimum wage increase this year, gone up to $12. And the cost of living during COVID for people that are retired, which usually are an older population sometimes, a lot of them are doing homes, food deliveries and things like that. And the cost to them is quite high. So with that, I could support the 0.5%, 0.5% COLA increase, but I'd like to make a motion also to put on the floor of 0.25%. I feel that's fair. It's not zero.
Councilor Bordelon, is there a second, please?
I'll second.
So moved by Bordelon for offering a COLA of 0.25%, moved by Bordelon, seconded by Franco. Councilor Bordelon, you have the floor.
I understand that some may not get raises, but there is a cost of living. I mean, as we were just talking at my own job, is the hourly employees, people that are making 15 and then have been making 15 for the last year, and now minimum wages moved up to 12. I mean, they're voicing that they'd like to go up as well. And so it is important, I think, to look at that. And I think this is fair. It says that we actually can respect the fact that their need for an increase, because everyone needs one. Let's be honest. But I think it's modest, and it's very modest looking at the numbers in comparison to the 0.5%, but looking at it all the way up to 2%. So I think this, to me, is a fair number that I could work with. So I would like to consider it. Thank you.
Counselor Aubrey.
How many motions do we have on the floor?
We have the main motion and 2 amendments, so that's it.
That's it.
And they all pertain to the first amendment or the first motion. So there's no question of negating the main motion.
Okay, so
Would you-
if we should have one defeated, I would then like to put another motion on the floor.
As long as it doesn't negate the main motion.
Correct. Okay. Can I speak anyways? Then I'll try to slide it in later.
Yes.
No, I think we're, those of us that we were at the beginning, this was one of the first things we realized that had been not attended to the way that it should have been. And we took on trying to correct the process and trying to make it fair to the people that had retired from the town. And so I still think we owe a lot to them and the oncoming people that are going to retire. I think we've made adjustments to their medical. I think we're making adjustments that are going to be good for the town, but I think it's going to take a little away from them. And so if the opportunity does arise, I would like to go with the 1%, but I will wait and see how the vote goes. And maybe Mr. Sakani, never say that right, could remind us about what we did as far as the insurance, because that impacts them also, the retirees.
Madam Mayor, point of order. I think you can have 3 amendments, not just the main amendment, but 3 amendments.
No, you can have 3 motions, the main motion and two subordinates.
Oh, all right, I will defer to your ruling.
Mr. Zagami, would you like to respond briefly to Counselor Aubrey as far as changes to retiree healthcare?
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of changes to the retiree healthcare because whatever was set at is kind of forever. But we did have a couple of changes that we were able to make, but it was optional for them. And that was along the lines of how we would charge for prescriptions. So that gave us a small number of changes, and it decreased it slightly. But basically, the retirees have probably had a better insurance for most than the retirees will have in the future.
Thank you.
Mr. Burt, did you want to speak to something?
Yeah, Bob's right. That probably improved insurance while giving us a little bit of savings by giving them other options. It was a win-win, similar to what we've done with looked at in the past.
Counselor Melendez?
Yes, I was just curious about how many people the money is divided. If there's sort of like an estimate for how many people it's going to.
Who would have that? Mr. Zagami, do you know that?
Funny thing, I called for that number today, and I didn't get it before I left today because it was just a question. I wasn't sure if we were going to be asked. So at the last minute, leaving the door, they were going to get it for me tonight. So I'll have it by tomorrow. But it's a rather large number.
So hundreds, dozens? How large?
I would say there would have to be probably, depends on how many people have had 5 years, which makes them entitled to this. This doesn't go to everybody. You have to have had 5 years since retired, and then you become, every time there's an increase, you get it. But until you hit the 5 years, that's where you'd be. So I would say, 100 would be very much on the high side.
Okay. All right. Okay. So you're saying under 100, probably?
Difficult. I'm taking pot shots at this right now because the amount of people who've retired over the years is quite substantial.
No, I understand. Okay. Thank you.
And every year it does grow naturally because as everybody becomes the 5 years, they all start to get the increases, and that happens. Once you've hit the 5 years, every year the COLA comes up, you would get the increase. So it kind of grows exponentially.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Parker, I believe you're the only one that hasn't spoken. Did you wish to speak before I go back to second time speakers?
I'm all set, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Councilor Zepari, we're back to you, sir.
No, I've said my thing. I don't see any point repeating it.
Thank you. Okay, so we have 3 motions on the floor and we vote them in reverse order. So the first motion that would come up would be the motion for 0.25% COLA increase. That would be the one we will be voting first. Just looking for hands, guys.
Oh.
No? Okay, Councilor Aubry.
I'm voting. You said you were looking for hands.
No, I'm looking to see if anybody wanted to say anything before I called the vote.
Okay.
Trying to be slow and deliberate. Okay, I see no hands, so I'm going to call the vote now. So all those in favor of the second amendment, which is to offer a COLA increase of 0.25%, raise your hand, please, and don't put your hand down until I call your name. Zepari? Bordelon? Parker? Opposed? Please raise your hand and don't put it down until I call your name. Aubry? Baumgartner? Franco? Heed? Granatowski?
I'm raising mine.
Melendez for a no?
Yeah.
0 abstention. So that motion fails. 3 in favor, 6 opposed, 0 abstention.
I put a motion on the floor.
As long as it's, you know the rule. Go ahead, Councilor Aubry.
I would like to put the motion on the floor for 1%.
Is there a second?
Second,
Aubry,
Franco.
seconded. I think Baumgartner beat you to it.
Okay.
So the second amendment is by Councilor Aubry, seconded by Baumgartner, to offer an increase of 1% COLA. Is that correct, Councilor Aubry?
That is correct.
Okay, you have the floor. You can speak to the motion.
Well, I honestly wish it could be the 2, but I do agree with Councilor Franco. We've got to be much more aware of what we're doing, and I think that's probably the best we could do with the year that we're in. I expect every one of us have felt the impacts of what we're going through, but I expect nobody like the retirees. I think it's probably very, very hard on them, pretty hard on me, and I'm still working. So I'm sorry we can't do the 2. I would ask everybody to go with the difference and go with the 1%, and I think we can at least help them a little bit that way.
Would any councilors like to speak to the second amendment? I'm assuming that there is, everyone's philosophy is probably the same, so it's just going to be a matter of choosing which option you'd like. Councilor Bordelon.
Yeah, I'd like to ask a question to the town manager. John, I was just looking to see, like, between the 1% and the half. I know the recommendation originally was 0. What types of impact would the 1 versus the half, and as a town, where could we go? Or I guess we could do whatever, but.
It's really up to the council. The 0.5% is about 20,000 per year. The 1% is about 40,000 per year.
Okay.
It's not in the grand scheme of how big our budget is, it's not a huge difference. It's just, every little bit adds up, but it's really up to the council.
All right, thank you.
Councilor Melendez.
Yes, I just can I get it explained to me, because I'm sort of not understanding why it's not just like if it's 19,575 annually for 20 years, why it's not just that number times 20? Like, why is it less?
You pay up front, then you accumulate interest. Is that what it is, Eileen?
Yeah, that's how I'm viewing it as, just sort of like a kind of like a mortgage situation. If you paid everything down all at once, it'd be cheaper than if you paid it off over time.
Okay, and we would be doing it all up front, right?
No, we do it over time, or the town does, as does it with all of its payments related to pension.
Okay. No, I mean, like, so we would be realizing the cost savings since the liability is less than the. You see what I'm saying?
No, the town would be paying the $20,000 a year for 20 years.
Okay. All right. It just seems okay. I mean, I'm not really understanding. Just because, like, if it increases for, say, about $10,000 annually for 20 years, wouldn't it be 200,000?
I think maybe it's looking at it in the reverse and saying that if you were to pay it all at once, it would be $200,000. But because you're paying it over time, there's an interest component, for example, included in it, just like it is if you're paying off a house. So I think you have to look at it in the reverse way and saying it's $200,000 if it was boom right now, but because we have to pay it over time, that's going to increase because we get the time value of the money.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yep.
Councilor Zepari.
I think that, we're talking about the cost of this one wage, this one COLA increase. We've had COLA increases for the past 4 years amounting to more than 6%. I think we're paying separately for each of those COLA increases over a 20-year period. So what we're doing is we're adding to that debt by I guess for the 1% would be 40,000 per year. Am I correct?
Right.
Yeah.
And we already have as I say, more than 6% over the last 4 years. So what we're doing is we're increasing the burden on the people who are struggling as much as the town and retirees. And what we're doing is we're taking money from some people who are struggling and giving it to other people who are struggling, theoretically, because they're struggling. But we have to consider the people that we take it from also. And that's why at this particular time, I don't think it's a good plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Franco.
So I was just doing a little bit of math, and if you take it that over the original 15 years, there was no increase. Then there was what am I correct in saying it was a 2% increase 2 years ago? Is that correct, Ms. Duggan?
Yes. Yep.
And if we gave a 1% increase this time, that would be 3% basically over 19 years, if you consider the next 2 years and going back. So let's just say you retired with 40,000 a year you were receiving, and you take that and you do the math, 3% over 19 years is an extra $1,200. It's not very much. It's I mean, that's a very small amount of money to help somebody over a 19-year period and to increase as a senior, maybe, when everything else in the world is increasing. So I think 3% over 19 years is like an extremely reasonable amount. I can support this motion as well. Thank you.
If I may, if you look at page 29, there's an analysis that said over the last 4 years, it says 0.3%, 2%, 2.8%, and 1.6%. That comes to well over 6% over the last 4 years. So I just looking at the data that's been given to us by staff. Thank you.
I believe that was Social Security. Is that what? Yeah. Attorney Duggan, go ahead. You can speak to it.
Yeah, just to clarify that was in our analysis, we were laying out what the increase had been over a short period of time for Social Security. So those aren't increases that were actually granted to our retirees. That was just a benchmark for us to look at and say as one of the factors, this is what's happened outside, how does that impact inside? So to your point earlier, when you were talking about 6%, it's really the 2% that was implemented in 2018, which equates to roughly, I think $62,000 a year increase liability for the town. Then it would be plus whatever it is that the town is giving or wishes to give now. So if the town gave another 1%, then it would be another $40,000 sort of on top of that.
Okay.
Okay, I'm not seeing any other hands. So how this works, we will vote the second amendment next. I'm going to be calling for a vote on the second amendment.
Which is?
I'm calling for a vote on the second amendment, people, which is an increase of 1% for the COLA. Please raise your hand and don't lower it until I call your name. So all those in favor of 1% COLA increase, raise your hand. Aubrey, Baumgardner, Franco, Parker, Melendez, Granatowski. Opposed? Perry? Heed?
Bordelon.
Bordelon. And 0 abstentions. So that motion passes. 6 in favor, 3 opposed, 0 abstentions. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Eileen, for coming.
All right, have a good night. Good night.
Okay, we are on 2019-326-7. This is an update on excess property redevelopment, Gold Star Highway, Colonel Ledyard School, and Sealy School. I will let Mr. Reiner, I believe, is with us, or Mr. Burt. Would one of you like to give the public just a brief overview with no details? And before I read the motion to go into executive session. Yes, Mr. Reiner or Mr. Bronk are both here.
Good evening, John Reiner, Director of Planning and Development Services. Yes, myself and Paige Bronk are both here. So very briefly, we just wanted to give an overview to the council in executive session with where we are with a few properties. The Sealy property and, in public session, I can say we're still moving ahead. The town did sign an option agreement with the preferred developer, Donmar. We've been working with them on some concept plans, which we will probably be bringing those to the town council sometime in the next few weeks. The council did have to approve those concept plans and view those to make sure that they were consistent with the previous concept that was brought to the town before. And there's some other items that we're working on that we wanted to just inform the council of in executive session regarding Sealy. Colonel Ledyard, Mr. Bronk can give a little bit more of an overview, but we're still early in the negotiation phase. We've identified a preferred developer, but we're still working on that project.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Reiner. So I hereby move that the members of the Town Council, Town Manager John Burt, Assistant Town Manager Bob Zagami, Planning Director John Reiner, and Economic Development Manager Paige Bronk go into executive session pursuant to General Statutes Section 1-206D for the discussion of the selection of a site or the lease, sale, or purchase of real estate by the state or a political subdivision of the state concerning purchase and development of the former Sealy School property and for the 517, 529 Gold Star Highway properties. I so move.
Second Parker.
Moved by Granatowski and seconded by Parker. All those in favor of going into executive session, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? So moved unanimously. It is 7:46 and we are in executive session.
How about a break?
That's fine, but before you go, I would like us to decide if we have other business. Otherwise, GMTV can call it a night. Are any counselors going to wish to discuss things under other business that you would like on camera? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Okay, Sean and Liam, Mr. Burt, it doesn't look like any counselors have other business, so it's your call, sir.
Okay, we'll send them home once we go into executive session.
Okay, and you want, there's been a request for a 5-minute break, so we will take a 5-minute break at 7:47 right now, guys, okay?